Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show a very, very talented and funny comedian from San Diego, California. He's one of the funniest comics on the faith-based clean comedy circuit, and is referred to as the clean version of Rodney Dangerfield. He's entertained audiences all across the country and abroad in a variety of television, radio, TV, and film. He's been on cruise ships, churches, colleges, corporate events, you name it. And we had a chance to meet each other at the Clean Comedy Conference in San Diego, California, about 4 years ago. You can see this comedian on ABC, CBS, the Family Channel. He's appeared at the Ice House, the Laugh Factory, the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas, and I'm running out of more accolades. So we'll stop there and we'll bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very funny, the very talented Scott Wood. What's up, Scott? What's going on?
Doing well. What an intro. I have to live up to all that. I'm actually not in San Diego. I'm closer to LA because I want to get a really good look at the fires because we're on fire here.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So the virtual deal, look,
Yeah.
Scott, this virtual, deal is where we are right now. The pandemic has got us doing this kind of stuff, which is a lot of fun. And it's opening up other avenues for us to actually, I think, maybe enhance and improve our career. But what's it been like for you entertainment wise? Have you been doing stand-up comedy on the virtual platform?
Yeah, I'm huge on Zoom. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, very few, like I said, I used to have a career and now I'm this big. I'm on small boxes on computers. So there's the Facebook Live, the Zoom every now and then. A couple of shows are coming here and there, small backyard parties where people are 6 feet apart and wearing masks, and everyone's wearing a mask. So it's never been a better time for ugly Americans. So I'm excited.
Hey Scott.
Um,
Christopher Sean Shaw wants to know who your favorite director is.
that would probably be, it was either Mike Nichols back in the day, or I know he's fishing for a compliment, but it could be Christopher Shaw. I don't know if he's my favorite, but he's the top. Who am I fooling? I don't even like the guy.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, sure. We'll take Christopher Sean Shaw.
What kind of work? What kind of work have you guys done together, Scott?
We did. We've been in several prison movies. Very exciting.
Yeah, that's
we've
very
done.
Exciting. Very exciting.
Oh, yeah, we've done. No, there's some short films, and of course, he directed my I have a new cooking show that's being pitched to the networks. Actually, as of next week, it's going before the different networks. It's a cooking show with comedians called Something Smells Funny, and Christopher was the director and the producer on that.
Okay, awesome, man. I can't wait until that project comes out. I would certainly love to be a part of that. That sounds like a lot of fun. And so right now you're still in the process of making that come to a reality.
Yeah, we finished. We filmed 4 episodes before the pandemic, and then we were getting ready to. It's all been down, and we have all the paperwork in place, and we've hired a company headed up by Paul Cruz. So he's going to go take it to the various networks and see if we can't get something going. But it's a great show. It's a cooking show featuring comics. So you're gonna eat some delicious food. We're gonna laugh along with them. We're going to talk about all their careers. We've had great comics on like Bobby Collins, Victoria Jackson from SNL, Mark Christopher Lawrence, who I know you know. We've had on Jimmy Brogan, and so many other big names that are friends of mine. Paul Rodriguez, Tom Dreesen. We've reached out to Louis Anderson. He handled all the big comics, and so it's going to be a good fun show. You'll eat healthy and you'll bust a gut. So there you go.
Okay, well, that sounds good, Scott. I can't wait until that comes out. So, we met each other in San Diego at the Clean Comedy Conference. I think that was in, I want to say, 2016. And so a lot
Right.
obviously has been going on since that time. But what's been going on? I've heard they're doing some shows out there close to, I think, Bay Bridge Brewing. So, I mean, are there shows kind of
Yes.
kicking off again out there in San Diego?
Yes, very few here and there, and I'm about maybe 90 minutes north of there. But I have been going out to some other shows out here, some events where again they're trying to keep it safe. A lot of them are outdoors, so a lot of these outdoor stages have been erected in club areas and restaurants and corporate and some backyard parties, where they're trying to keep safe. It's a whole new world that we're living in now. So it's all about keeping your distance. Someone sneezed at Walmart, everyone hit the ground like gunfire went off. But it's a great time to be alive, especially in LA because the hits are in full bloom. The smell of tear gas is in the air. It's a beautiful time of year.
Well, what an aroma. I can tell you right now in DC, Scott, just before, I think it was in March, before it actually became a reality that, okay, COVID-19 is here, I was on the metro and someone cleared their throat. They went, and everyone's head on the subway snapped. And I'm thinking,
Yeah,
can't the man just enjoy his indigestion alone? I thought it was just
I'm
an
telling you.
overreaction, but look, it turned out to be the real deal that we really do have a full on pandemic going, Scott. Nobody saw this coming.
You know what? You could actually fire gunshots inside of a Walmart. Nobody would flinch. Someone would come up to you and go, "Oh my gosh, was that a sneeze?"
Yeah.
It's nuts. But this
Well,
this
you
is
know
the
what,
world. I
Scott?
mean, hey, COVID. Go ahead, Maurice. You're
Yeah,
on.
I was going to say, Scott, but I have learned some things during the pandemic, and it's called patience. Patience, Scott. Someone stole a car right in front of my house the other day, and I did not get mad. I didn't. I went outside and I realized it was my next door neighbor Jeff's car, and I let it go, Scott.
There you
I let it
go.
go.
Let it
It's
go.
called patience. I was very calm.
That's uh,
Well,
that's all you can do.
that's
All
all you
you
can
can
do. I
do.
mean, they say
So
patience
much
is a
sim.
virtue, Scott. So it
It
is what,
is,
yeah.
but
But
there's so much civil unrest. I mean, you've got the corona. I mean, just ugliness, the coronavirus, the fires going everywhere. There's nothing but bad, ugly news, and that's just in sports. But it's crazy. It is crazy right now. What's going on? I mean, you just have to. And they're still looting. They're still rioting. I mean, everywhere. Up in Portland. I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but a bunch of looters actually broke into a TJ Maxx and reorganized.
yeah, well, hey, Scott, I didn't know that it was as. I don't get the whole Oregon thing. I'm really kind of perplexed at the intensity of protest in Oregon. I just kind of just throwing me off a little bit. Now, what's it? You say you're based closer to Los Angeles right now. What is the atmosphere like out there?
Well, like I said, the drive-bys are a thing to behold. It's just crazy, and every day you turn on the news, another black individual, whether it be male or female, is getting either shot or tased or whatever. But no, it's ugly all over. The police officers that were shot just 2 days ago, point
Yeah.
blank.
Wow.
Civil unrest, the coronavirus, and again, every year out here in California, we're always on fire. It's nuts. If you're gonna between the fires and the earthquakes and the mudslides, Maurice, if you ever move to California, please bring a hose and a shovel, please.
Okay, I'll keep that in
But
mind, Scott. I
it's
tell you, man. I these drive-bys, it's interesting, dude, because, my kids are like 23, 21, and 18. I used to tell them all the time when they were growing up, hey, listen, you're not thugs. Okay, don't try that. Okay, you have a
Right.
dad who's a black man who talks like Tom Hanks. So just
Right.
forget it. Okay, it's not going to work out too well at the cookout. So just forget
Oh,
about that stuff. Plus, Scott, I don't know of any thugs that live in a cul-de-sac.
no,
And you know what? No, I
none.
don't. And you know why? Because it's awfully hard to do a drive-by in a cul-de-sac. That's why. Anyway, Scott, I'm
Yes.
just yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to do. But I'm glad you're okay, Scott. I mean, I've heard the protests are really out of control, big time. They're not all violent. There are some peaceful protests, so they're not all bad. But since we're on the subject,
Mhm.
I would like to ask you what I mean, even the world is appalled at what's happening right now. Okay, even the world is appalled and looking at the United States with a really crooked eye right now. Like, what are you guys doing? But in the midst of all of the protesting, Scott, what do you think the chances of positive, effective change are for this nation?
Well, let me just answer that as Donald Trump. It is absolutely tremendous, tremendous, terrific. Maurice, I love your show. I love Black America, as you know. I love everyone, the whites, the
You
Jews,
know,
the Hispanics.
yeah, gotta love them.
Time for a change. We're going to keep
Yes,
America great again.
yeah,
As you know, coronavirus, where we aim to sneeze, tremendous. Who knew?
yes.
Crazy Bernie.
Um, we just got to ride this out, basically, Maurice. We're gonna just do our best, keep our distance. We barely even watch the news anymore. Everyone was looking forward to 2020, and look what happened. We're like, hey, 2021 now. So, I
Yeah,
used to have a career. It was exciting. There were shows, as all of our comedian friends did. But it's
yeah,
such a weird time that we're living in. It's almost like it's a bad movie, like we're in Armageddon or something.
yeah,
I keep
yeah.
looking around for Will.
Hey, Scott, I know that you got some stuff coming up here. I want to let everybody know that I was on this show, the Darren Streblo show, over the weekend. And there's a picture,
Mhm.
everybody, of Scott Wood, who's also been on the Darren Streblo show. Just go to
Right.
darrenstreblo.com and you can hear last week's show. That was an honor for me to be on there. But you have a show coming up on September 18th. And is that going to be out? I mean, is that going to be outside?
Yes, we got some great comics on that bill, headed up by Linnea Dominguez, and it's rooftop comedy. So, like
Okay,
all the
okay.
shows, it's been yeah. So we're up on this big, beautiful building. This whole rooftop where there's tables and chairs, outdoor dining, and that's just the way everything is going right now. I mean, little by little, as restaurants and everything are moving outside under big canopies. Um, you but I saw, of course, I forget. I think it was, I don't know if it was Caroline's in New York. No, you know what? It was the Gotham. It was New York. It was the Gotham Comedy Club. That's
Yeah.
reopened. I saw Jerry Seinfeld on a news clip just the other night, and he was there, and of course, wearing the mask, takes it off, as he said. But I know clubs looks like they're going the way of the dinosaur. It's mostly just social distancing, small gatherings, keep separate. But yeah, that's rooftop comedy this Saturday in San Bernardino, California. It's on my Facebook page, and I can also send a link to you as well. And I've just been kind of promoting that as best we can with some other great comics, and you can come out and eat and drink. And again, it's up on the roof, so it's nice and safe. It's
Okay.
COVID comedy where we aim to sneeze.
And
So there you
please,
have it.
well, there you go. Well, yeah, please send the link, Scott. I would love that. I tell you, man, being outside is a difficult deal because the laughs go up and they disappear in the air and everybody's spread out. So it's got to be more difficult to get the laughs going. But hey, it's better than doing the virtual platform. At least you're actually out in front of people. So that's pretty cool.
Yes.
And yeah, definitely, please send me the link for that. Um, Scott, how do you like performing in clubs where there's profanity being used? You're the only clean comic. How do you overcome that? Is that a difficult challenge?
No, I don't mind it at all. I just did another outdoor event a couple of nights ago, and every comic before me, before I closed the show, was absolutely filthy. Absolutely filthy. I mean, just rated R, bordering on X.
Yeah,
I don't mind it at all. They were getting great laughs. I come up and I do my show, and I also get big laughs. Funny is funny. So that's just the way I look at it. And I encourage comics. Usually, what they'll do is they'll do a bit, and it might get kind of a laugh. And then what I've noticed is they'll end it with a curse word. Like they'll say the
yeah.
joke, and then they'll go, "Am I effing right? I mean, what the f? I mean, that's SOB or SHI or whatever." And it's almost like they threw it in there as a an afterthought because I guess cursing is funny. I'm not sure, but it's never bothered me. It's never bothered me a bit. I don't try to change anybody. I encourage people, if they're funny, to try to write, because you can perform more places clean than you can when you're dirty, because they'll box you into either late night or the rated X show. Corporate wants clean. Most cruise ships, unless it's a late night show, it's a family audience, they want clean. I know a lot of the clubs try to encourage clean, or at least PG or PG-13, but it doesn't bother me a bit. I mean, if you're hilarious and you're all clean, that's all that matters. You can hold your own. So it's the material, it's the writing, and I write every single day, 5 new jokes. Since this pandemic, I've written pages and pages and pages of comedy that, when this is all said and done, I'm ready to bring it on the stage with me, which I have been so far over these few small shows that are here and there outside. But a lot of COVID jokes, a lot of Trump and Bernie material, and Biden, and there's so much going on for a comic right now, and we just have to find the funny parts, within the ugliness that's happening around the world. So it's the best of times and it's the worst of times, Maurice.
Well, it is, and if you're a child of God, it's actually beneficial. God's got a nugget of reward inside of all of the
Mhm.
madness for His children. Nothing against those that don't belong to the Lord, but the facts are we're blessed in the midst of all of the negativity. So we have to take advantage of the rest that we're able to get. We're not going out and doing shows all the time. We get a chance to get some rest. We get a chance to write more material and expand our library of jokes, because it's just like riding a bicycle. I mean, once you've done it enough times, and you've been on stage, Scott, I mean, I can't count. I mean, thousands of times, I'm sure. So it's like riding a bike. So it's not like it's something that you have to do. You can write and write and write and write. And when it's time to get back out there, you'll be ready to
Move.
go.
There, I'm back.
Um,
Are you back,
okay.
Maurice?
Okay. Scott, good to have
Yes.
you back. As Christopher Sean Shaw says, laughter is medicine for the soul, and it is. But as I was saying, Scott, I don't know if you heard everything I said, but being out is a chance for us to rest and expand our library of comedy. It's a blessing because we can write more and just become more effective as entertainers, and God is just like sitting us down. So just sit down and rest while I take care of some business over here. So that's really what it comes down to. So
Yes.
there's a blessing in all of this. Even though we don't understand it or like it, it's a blessing for God's people.
Well, it really
So
is, and me and my family have seen it that way too. Most definitely. It is a time of rest and refreshing and to write more comedy and to maybe try to get things going behind the scenes, while you're not on stage. And this has given us the time to tweak the television show and get all the paperwork right. And again, to spend time with my family, which is great. So, we're going to come out of it better on the other side. It's just, we just have to wait it out, like anything in life. When
well,
life gives you lemonades, or lemons rather, you throw them at somebody. That's what I do.
well, this show, Scott, is on Roku TV. We are on the Creative Motion Network, and the Creative Motion Network is on Roku. So this show will air in a couple of days. I have a whole series library of all of my shows. And so what God has given me during this time is not only that, but also I am contemplating on expanding the show into a full-on talk show format where I will have comics come on and do sets, and we'll do interviews. I'll do an opening monologue. I'll have a comic do a set. We'll talk a little bit and other aspects of a real comedy show, because the reality, Scott, is we can do the same thing that the world is doing in a faith-based world. We can do the same thing, and it's respectable. It's done with class, and most importantly, it's done with a lot of fun. So God's given me that, so that's in the works, and so that's something that I never would have done. I never would have considered if we were not in the midst of this pandemic.
What a
So
blessing. Well, I
yeah,
look forward to that, man, and congrats on the whole Roku thing and all that. I mean, what a blessing. God is still in control. I mean, I could actually sum up my career in 3 words: straight to video, which is always exciting. I used to be a comedian. They just showed my biography on the History Channel.
is that right?
So yeah. So look for me there, because that's where my career is. I thought my career was peaking, but it wasn't even looking. So
Well, I'm going to have to check out your biography there, Scott. I appreciate the heads up. I will definitely be looking out for that. You've been compared to the very, very talented and funny Rodney Dangerfield, the Mr. Punchline, the king of comedy one-liners. Who are some of your
right.
favorite comedy legends or heroes, guys that you look up to, Scott?
Well, besides you, Maurice, let's see who else is there. Well, of course, Rodney Dangerfield. Uh, uh, yeah, I always wanted to be a black comic. I know you know that, but no, I loved Rodney. I loved Henny Youngman, Johnny
Yeah,
Carson, Woody
yeah.
Allen, always hilarious for me. On the females was Phyllis Diller, Joan Rivers, Mel Brooks with his comedy and comedy writing was a big influence on me. Really, all of my comedy heroes are all dead. So that's how far back I go. Those are the guys that, from the Allen Kings to the legends from Milton Berle and Jack Benny and George Burns. I mean, the guys who were from vaudeville and burlesque
Yeah.
and then moved into the Catskills and early television, that were clean, quick, variety, sketches, comedy writing, monologues, all of that stuff. They were incredible. So those are the ones that I enjoy. Now, of course, as of recently, throughout the years, I enjoy Norm Macdonald. I enjoy Brian Regan. I like Jim Gaffigan.
Okay.
Ray Romano, I also find very, very funny. Woody Allen, started off in stand up and then just felt more better as a writer and a director and a producer. But his comedy CD is called Woody Allen Stand Up Comic, and
Okay.
you can find that in the stores. And it is so funny if you get a chance to ever come across that stand up comic, Woody Allen. Just the writing, it's really all in the writing, and those comics were set up punch. They were quick. And I always like that. When you see my show, it's a little Rodney, it's a little Don Rickles with the crowd work, the improv, going to the audience and do that kind of stuff. So it's a variety show. I have all the different voice impressions that I do. So I think if you're going to be a comic, you really want to give your audience everything. You want to leave it all on the stage and give them 100%. And that's what I always try to do with lots and lots and lots of jokes. So you feel like you got your money's worth.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Don Rickles. Don Rickles, when you think about some of the old school guys that are not with us anymore, Don Rickles was a comedy enigma because he was actually a guy that he was mean. I mean, Don Rickles was a mean comic, but he was so good and so artistic, you couldn't get mad at him. It didn't matter how angry and mean Don Rickles would be towards you. You couldn't get mad. He told a story once, Scott, where he was doing a show because he worked out of Vegas and he performed in front of a lot of mafioso guys. And one of his favorite jokes was to go, "Hey, is that your wife?" And the guy go, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, terrible." So he did this to one of the guys at a show in Vegas, and he was in his dressing room, and a guy knocked on the door, and Don's like, "Uh-oh, well, I guess this is it. It finally caught up to me." And the guy goes, "Hey, Donnie, can I get your autograph? I think you're great."
Right.
So, you got to love stuff like that. But you don't see that kind of artistic form in comedy anymore. I mean, those were like, and I guess I don't want to be, hey, get off my lawn kind of guy. But today's comedy is not the same, and I think that you are a throwback, Scott. You're a throwback, and you're able to get out there in the midst of comics that are using all kind of profanity and yada yada yada, and still hold your own, stand up right beside those guys. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to be profane and lewd and rude and crude to be funny. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that.
Well, it's all in the writing. It's all in how much time you put in to sit down and look at the news, read a newspaper, look around you. And I think Dave just chimed in and said, "Yeah, Don Rickles would probably be canceled in today's climate," and that's probably true.
Yes, it's probably
with
true.
the political and yeah, David's correct. With today's political correctness, and yet there's political correctness, and then sometimes there's not. I mean, just when you look at what's happening and what's been said over all the years, I mean, we can go all the way back to All in the Family, and then Don Rickles, and then later on you had your Andrew Dice Clays and your Kinnisons, and even a lot of stuff that I just finished reading a Joan Rivers biography. She put out 2 of those, and then there was or 2 autobiographies and a biography, and even some of the stuff that she said, and you're like, "Oh, I can't believe she said that." But again, with Don Rickles, there was really never any malice. It was just, light fun. And, Bob Newhart, who was his dear friend, said he was the sweetest, nicest guy who loved everybody. To me, I don't believe comedians really are prejudiced in any way. I've never, 90 to 95% of all my friends are stand-up comics. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I know thousands of comedians, and all we want to do is make people laugh. We don't care what color, what ethnicity, we don't care your religion. You came into the show, you buy your 2 drinks, you bought your ticket, even if it's a free show, everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter. We don't care. We just want to reach everybody. We want everyone to laugh. And that's the common denominator that we all have. I mean, to me, it's in the material, it's in the writing, it's in the delivery, and the more you do, the better you get. You grow as a performer. You've got to write. You've got to get on stage, which is bad now for comedians who are just starting out in the last couple of years, because now they don't really have any platform but this. But 30 years ago, for me, there was, even up until late last year, there was plenty of opportunities to go places, and now we're very limited, but we're going to come out of it. Yeah, I think if you can be be funny without, again, having to be really crude and ugly and hurting people's feeling. I always say there's a difference between a racial material and racist material. We can talk about the races and our differences, which I do in a fun way, but we don't
Yeah.
have to get ugly and mean about it and put others down for the color of their skin or for whatever belief they have, which is different than ours. But we can find that humorous common denominator that brings us together.
Yes. Yes. And I was in the film Love Different in 2016, which you can see on Amazon Prime,
Mm-hmm.
ChristianCinema.com, and PureFlix, where we talk about race. We address it with comedy, the differences between white and black. There are a bunch of jokes in there about it, which are pretty harmless, but they're pretty typical assumptions about the other race. And we just make jokes about it. It's a very funny film, but it's really focused on a man's lost relationship with God, and so that's really the core of what the movie stems from. But it's surrounded by a lot of jokes when it comes to race, and so that's just to piggyback on your point about there's a difference between racial comedy and racist comedy. Those are two completely different things,
Yes.
and
They
so
are. They are. You know, in my acting, yeah, and with me, how my wife is African American, and how my brother-in-law is Jewish, and we have
yeah,
Filipino in both of our families. My
yeah,
sister-in-law and brother-in-law are both Hispanic, and so
yeah,
I talk about. We have a friend who's Jewish, and his wife is Japanese, and they
yeah.
named their daughter Sosumi. They named their daughter Sosumi as you're
Yeah,
stepping on the punchline. But no, but these are the kind of jokes that I talk about that you can like my friend Mark, Mark Christopher Lawrence, he's black, his wife is Hispanic, and she mixes food from the Mexican culture and the black culture because she makes a mean refried grits.
oh wow,
So
you gotta love it,
yes,
man.
so delish, so
Oh man,
delicious.
I'll tell you right now,
You don't
dude,
know.
tacos with well, I mean, you gotta love it, Scott. Hey, Scott, Scott, let me ask you, how does your faith? You're a man of God. How did? And I mean, it's an obvious
Mhm.
question, but I still want to ask you, how does your faith influence you as a performer?
Well, it influences me on everything I do, on the way I live
Yeah,
my life, on the way I vote come this November, on the way
yep,
I treat my wife and my children.
yeah,
The word of God, I'm as for me and my house, we serve the Lord. We're
amen,
born again
amen.
Christians, and that simply means that we love God and we believe that He came, He died, He rose again. I know the tomb is empty, and so I have
Yes,
no doubt about it. In who I believe, and God, and Christ Himself crucified and risen again. But the Word of God says, "Do all unto the glory of God." And in the book of Matthew, it says, "Let your light, whatever you do, let it shine before men, right? Before men and women of this world, what you do, let it reflect the Lord, that they would see your good works and then glorify your Father in heaven." There's nothing
yes,
good in us. I'm a sinner saved by grace. But by that grace of God, I now have the hope of heaven. And so, that's why,
amen, amen.
you know, um, and I was not always a clean comic. I had some stuff that was a little risque with double entendre and innuendo.
Right,
But the
right.
more I
Yep.
realized that I wanted to, but when I became a believer, and I knew this is all I wanted to do was to pursue stand-up comedy, was I wanted to push myself to see how funny I could be. I said, Scott, how funny? Why don't you see how funny you can be and just try to be as funny as you can be than all the other comics by being as clean as you can be? And so I decided to push myself in that way. Even though a lot of comics get laughs with the dirty material and the innuendo and the cursing, I just wanted to let people know that I could just bring it like a Brian Regan or a Jim Gaffigan or a Ray
Yeah,
Romano or a Seinfeld or Jay Leno, who's also
yeah,
hilarious and clean,
yeah,
Jimmy Brogan. There's a lot of us, that can just hammer, 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 and never even drop one curse word or put an audience member down. But again,
Yeah.
that stems from my love of I love people. I love my audiences. I love life, even down and we're going through all this, but it really does impact and influence the way I do everything. And people might think it's weird or that we don't know what we're talking about or there's nobody beyond the clouds. It's just in our head. But for me, I know without a shadow of a doubt that there's a God and that not only does he love me, but he loves you and he loves anyone who's listening. And if
Yes.
you're going through
Yeah.
anything right now at this time, depression, sadness, if you don't feel like you're at where you want to be, if life seems hopeless, if you're going through a bad marriage, if you're someone whose children have turned their back on you, if you're unemployed, yeah, I mean, you fill in the blank. But let me tell you something: somebody loves you, and that somebody is Jesus Christ. God loved the world so
Amen.
much that
Amen.
you and I don't have to worry about anything. He sent his son to die on that cross to take it all
Yes.
on himself that you don't have to. And so you can say a simple prayer into my heart, forgive me. I want something better. And I know there's something better. And with that, you have the hope in heaven. When I take my last breath, I'm not worried about it. Yeah, my
Amen.
body is going to fall. Well, it could be a plane crash, a bullet,
Yeah.
cancer, die in your sleep. Who knows? You turn on the news and some innocent person was hit by a stray bullet, some drive-by, some chase somewhere in a car that innocently hit somebody else. You
Yeah.
don't know when you'll take your last breath, but when you do, and I know you know this, and Christopher Shaw, and so many of other believing friends, is when you take that last breath, you are promised the hope of heaven. There's a place for you, not hell, not the lake of fire, not an eternal burning that separates you from God. Because if you do believe in heaven, look, if you believe in God, then you and I are you're halfway there with me. And if you believe in
Yes.
God, know that He did have a son. I have a son. You have children. Why couldn't God
Yes.
have children? Why couldn't? And we are His children. So why not? And
Right.
if you just put your faith and trust in Him, then you have that hope of heaven. That even though I'm going to see my mom again, my mother-in-law, and dear friends have already gone on to be with the heaven, there's a hope. Thank you, Karen, for chiming in. Karen Robertson's also a believer. But we
Yes.
have that hope
Yes.
in heaven. And so to God be the glory, man. A good life here and a better life to come.
Amen. Great words, Scott, and thank you, Karen, for chiming in. I met Karen out at the 2016 Clean Comedy Conference in San Diego. And if anyone's watching and you're not a believer, you want to pray, I'll stick around and I'll do that with you, so that you can accept Christ. I appreciate you, sharing those great words, Scott. And as you share that, have you had an opportunity to go abroad with your comedy and in other countries?
As a matter of fact, I was abroad for 2 weeks, and those high heels really hurt. But anyway, um, plus the bra was a little itchy. No, I've
Ah,
I've had the
yeah.
chance to travel all over, Maurice, in my 30-year career. This has been a full-time comedy career
Yeah.
since 1989. I've
Okay.
gone not only all across the United States. I've been to Greece, Turkey, Israel, Hong Kong twice. They have an American comedy club in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And anytime I have the opportunity, and I don't just do comedy clubs, I do churches. It's the same show. Again, when you work clean, I don't have to change anything. I can do an hour at a church. I can do an hour at a club. It's the same show. It's just good, clean comedy coming at you, one-liners, impressions, and and hopefully people will see that I'm different. A lot of people will meet me and say, "Hey, you were very clean. Would you happen to be a religious person? Are you a Christian man?" And
Yeah.
naturally, I am trust in the Lord. And anytime, a lot of people, they don't allow you that opportunity from certain stages to preach the gospel or to even share just a positive message, if you will, about the afterlife. But anytime that I have that opportunity, I always run right through that door and let them know that God loves them and that God has a plan for them. And there's so much more that the Lord has for their lives, and so much more that he had for me, and so much more that he has for you and all the believers out there. And it's just a simple prayer. So, God brought me out of a world of drug abuse and alcoholism. My parents divorced when I was a child. And there's so many other things that have gone on in my life that have been traumatic. I don't want to go into detail, but so many things in my family life and in my own in personal life with health and different things like that, and mental issues. But through it all, I mean, God,
Yes,
simply
yes.
put.
And people ask a lot of questions, about, okay, well, if you're doing a show and they're using a lot of profanity. I did a show once where I was talking about relationships, and I was talking about men date smarter, please. And I said, I said, you got to date somebody smarter than you. I said, my son tells me all the time, hey, Dad, you do everything Mom says. Yeah, you did the right thing. And so someone came up to the front of the audience, and she heckles everybody. This girl's a mean comic, and she heckles everybody. But she came up to the front of the stage, and she just watched my show quietly. And when the show was over, she came over to me. This is the first time she'd ever not heckled anyone. And she came over to me and she said, I really appreciate what you said about relationships. I'm in an abusive relationship, and I just feel horrible, and everything you said inspired me. And those are that's one of the reasons we do what we do, Scott. We're
Mm-hmm.
we're there in an environment of darkness and all these lewd, commentaries that comics think's funny. They think's funny, but there's always somebody out there that's looking for hope. And if you can just be that beacon of light and stay true to why God put you there, you start to see what He's doing through you. There's so many hurting people out there, Scott. There's a lot of hurting people out there, man. And that
I
meant
agree.
a lot to me. That meant a lot to me because she's been so mean to. She's got a reputation, and so for her heart to have been touched. But anyway, I just wanted to add that I thought that was a pretty cool what you were saying earlier about performing in environments where there's a lot of profanity. Is there a part of the country where you enjoy performing the most?
Well, since COVID, that would be my living room. Let's see. Yes, I'm actually headlining the kitchen next weekend, so that's very exciting.
Yes.
That's just I love going all over, and gosh, every show to me is a great time, whether it's a small show, a big show, a cruise ship, a college, a school, a church, club, corporate events. I do a lot of corporate. Just anytime. I mean, people always say, well, what's your best show? Well, it's the next show. Really, it's the one coming up, because I just had a great one, and I'm looking forward to, like, this weekend's rooftop. I'm looking forward to that one. I love what I do. It's all I've ever wanted to do. When I was in the 4th grade, thank you, John. John says I'm one of the funniest comedians around. Thank you, John. God bless John Peters, man. I'm going to send you that $20, like I promised. But anytime I have the opportunity to get in front of anyone and make them laugh, this is all I ever wanted to do. Thank you, Kristen Collier. I love you too, Kristen. She is so sweet. She's such a great
she is.
great lady there. Yeah, but like you, we love what we do, and we've been blessed with a gift. And again, for me to get up after all the dirty comics, like you said, just here's what makes me happy: to be able to get up and do 45 minutes and absolutely hammer an audience.
Yeah.
And not drop one curse word.
Yeah,
that's a
tough.
Gift to me.
That's a gift.
Oh gosh.
Gift.
When people 100%. Come up and say, you were so hilarious. Yeah, and they go, man, I wish I would have brought my mom. I could have brought my kids, or even if it was 18 and older or 21 and over. Sometimes people are afraid because they like the clean comics. They like the Seinfelds or the Jay Leno's or Jim Gaffigan's, the Brian Regans, the Dennis
Yeah.
Regans, guys like you
Yeah.
and me, all
Yeah.
the ones who keep it clean, but they don't realize, and not even putting comics down, but you see certain comics on TV where they keep it clean. Bob
Yeah.
Saget and Tim Allen, they're clean on TV. Roseanne is clean on TV. A lot of them are.
Right.
But
Right.
but they would go see them live at a comedy club. They would come back to me and go, Tim Allen and these guys and they're dirty. When you go see Bob Saget from Full House,
Yeah.
he's rated R, he's rated X. Tim Allen is dirty. A lot of them are dirty, but they're only TV clean. So always, when the comedy clubs come back around, get on their list, get on the email list, and see when they have the clean comedy nights. And again, a
Yeah.
lot of these guys that I mentioned are clean. Brian Regans, the Jim Gaffigans, the Ray Romanos. Louis Anderson is clean. He's still doing it. Oh gosh, Jay Leno, Jimmy Brogan from The Tonight Show. There's a bunch of us that can just take an audience for 45 minutes to an hour, and you don't have to worry about covering your ears or leaving. You're just going to laugh because we talk about life, and life is
Pretty
just funny.
impressive.
We find small little idiosyncrasies in life, and we talk about that like Seinfeld does, and when you're laughing and going, yes, I relate. I can't relate to penis jokes, and I can't relate, to be honest with you, to the black comics who are dropping the F word or using the N word.
Right.
I cannot
Right.
relate to that. And
Right.
as my wife, and is African American, she doesn't care for the N word, when she hears it. And
Exactly.
and by no means, I'm not a prude. I know you're not a prude,
Right.
or anything like that. But I just don't understand. I just don't understand it. And I'm not. And again, I won't put them down. I'm not
Right.
going to tell them how to live their life.
Right.
But I know I've seen a lot of comedians that have come on before me, and they've been really, really, really funny. Let me say this. It just happened the other night. They've been really funny.
Okay.
But in their act, there was a lot of dirty stuff as well.
Okay.
So afterwards, I encouraged them. I say, you have a gift. Anytime you were clean, you were absolutely killing. You were talking about your wife, your kids, the dog. You didn't
Right.
drop any
Right.
curse words, and that
Yes.
stuff was hilarious.
Yes.
And then you went into some dirty, and you got some laughs, and then they had like a little balance. But I said, why
Yeah.
not throw out all the filthy, keep
Yeah.
all the clean, expand on that, and there's your act. Now you don't have to worry about. I mean, then everyone will book you. You can do. Churches pay money. Corporate pays money, and they don't want you to be dropping the F bomb and the N word. I go. You can
Good
already
point, Scott.
seeing that
Good
when you
point.
were clean,
Yes.
you were funny.
Right.
So just find that and stick with that.
Well, those are great words of wisdom, and some of the same words I try to convey to comedians in Washington D.C. You can see I'm 56, got a little age on me there, so I'm around a lot of younger comics, and I tell them, hey, look, you're funny, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're never going to be on Conan O'Brien and Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel with that set. I mean, learn how to do clean material. Because if you don't think Bill Burr and Louis C.K. and Kevin Hart and all those guys, Ricky Gervais, they can do a clean set at the drop of a hat. So I just try to get something kicked off in their mind about, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I need to focus on that as well, just to try to get them motivated to do clean comedy, because that's really the reality. And the most lucrative comic in the world, and I mean by far, Scott, is Jerry Seinfeld. There's no one even close to Jerry Seinfeld as far as his financial gains as a performer in the field of comedy. And I saw him do an interview once, Scott, and he said, "Oh yeah," and of course this is aside from the way we live our lives, but just as a testament to what God's word says, he said, "Oh, I use profanity all the time, but I never use it on stage." He said that's not the
Right.
place for it. So God's word, even though Jerry Seinfeld's not thinking about God's word still works. No matter who you are, his word works.
Right.
So I thought it was very
Right. Well,
interesting
you
that
don't
he
want
said
to
that.
alienate anyone. Yeah, it's true because you don't want to alienate anyone from the stage. Even the greats that I mentioned from the
Yeah,
past, off stage, they could tell dirty jokes. They could be very blue. But when they were on TV or whatever, they wanted to reach everyone. There's a persona and a personality that we want to find and come across as and be known as, and if you can gather more people together instead of pushing them away, it's better for your career. You'll be booked more. Now, of course, on the flip side, those guys that you mentioned, Louis C.K., I mean, you have phenomenal comics that are multimillionaires like the Chris Rocks and everyone who, and the Richard Pryors and the Carlins, who also were in the same league as Seinfeld. Everyone knew their name, and and
yeah,
and, and they were huge, and they did TV and movies and all that. And of
yeah,
course, they were dirty on stage, but not on TV. But they're known as the dirty comic. I
right.
guess so. Of course, they'll never change. But I hear what you're saying. I try to tell the comics that are starting out. I mean, if you want to be a Carlin or a Chris Rock, hey, if that's your thing, no worries. But just know this, if you're just starting out, they've already built a career on that. They've already had
There
some
you
ups
go.
and downs until they
Correct.
finally became Chris Rock, before they became George Carlin.
Yeah,
But you're starting out. So if right out the gate you're using all the foul, I mean all the N words, all the F words, all the penis jokes, I mean, be ready because you might not be welcomed. But if you start off clean and you can make it clean and work clean, you know, that's better for me because then you can be invited everywhere. You see, the thing is with Brian Regan and Jim Gaffigan, these comics and the big clean comics like Seinfeld and even Jeno and Ray Romano,
yeah,
they don't really hardly do clubs. They do theaters. You're talking about 25 to 5,500 seat theaters
yeah,
that
yeah,
these guys are packing out before the
yeah,
pandemic.
yeah,
So they're huge. Maybe every now and then they'll pop into a comedy club. But if you want to do giant stadiums and theaters where people are paying 30 to 50 to $60 a ticket to see you,
yeah.
and
Wow.
you get
Yeah,
a big percentage of that, and you're going to get a big percentage of that if you're a draw, you're not going to want to alienate yourself, to the audience that doesn't want to hear all that. I look at it
yeah,
this way. If a 15-year-old, if a 15-year-old kid or a 16-year-old or a 13-year-old kid
yeah,
can come to my show and they had to buy a ticket as well as someone who's 21 and over, I'm making more money. I put more butts in the seats for all ages with all family friendly comedy because my comedy kind of works from high school up. I don't do kids shows, or I'm more of, but I got material for middle schoolers and above. So now I'm reaching more people who bought a ticket that brings more money my way. If I'm dirty,
yeah.
that's not going to happen. Less people are
Right.
going to come, or it's just going to be 21 and over who want that kind of material. I'd rather reach everybody because everyone's buying a ticket and I'm making more money. And when it
Yeah,
comes to clean, the clean comedy shows everyone. My kids are 13 and 20, but even younger, Seinfeld, Brian Regan, Jim Gaffigan, they all want to go see them. They all want to go see Ray Romano. We all want to go see Louis Anderson because we can all laugh. We all bought a ticket and it doesn't
yeah.
have to be 21 and over. And now every seat is full. Everyone bought a
Great
ticket
point.
and the comic
Great
is
point,
making
Scott.
more
Yes.
money. So if you want to look, yeah, so if you want to look at it as a financial thing, if you're clean, you'll sell more tickets to more people because only certain people like dirty. But if you're just as funnier, not being dirty, everybody can come.
Everyone can come out. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. You couldn't have said it
Ching,
any
ching,
better,
ching,
Scott.
ching.
Yes.
and I need
I
the money. My
oh
my
yeah,
wife
yeah.
my wife spends my wife spends money like water. I need the cash. I need the cash. Listen, my wife with her spending, even listen, Maurice, even our
Yeah.
towels are name brand. Sheraton, Ramada.
Right, right. I tell you, man, you're
And I
spot on though, Scott.
I go
I
go
I I I
I
love
I do
your
a I'm married to a black woman, so black lives matter. Okay, I'm scared of her, so I do
yeah
what she says because she's cute, but she will cut me.
BLM. But Scott, I love I love your experience around the world though, because it's a chance really, because the world thinks that American comedy is all dirty and it's not. There are a lot of clean comics here. Bill Burr was over in, I think he got into a section of Eastern Europe where he was in Hungary and oh my gosh, what was it? He was Austria, and he got into a section where they kind of didn't get the jokes. They were kind of trying to figure the joke out. They felt like they needed to help the comedian solve the problem. They were like, "Why don't you just tell them you're sorry?" Instead of laughing. So I didn't know if you had any experiences overseas where there was a miscommunication gap where they didn't understand the punchline.
You know what? To be honest with you, no, that's never happened. Even in Hong Kong, where they had the
Yeah,
American Comedy Club. See,
yeah,
when I traveled overseas, I realized that people from all over the world, and even all over the 50 states live
yeah,
in Hong Kong, or their businesses move there, or in
right.
Spain, or in Greece, or in Turkey. And so and even in other countries where they know Americans are coming over to spend the tourist dollar,
Yeah,
they do as much as they can to learn our language. There's a lot of American TV over there too. So, and with me being clean, talking about, most people are, my kids, Walmart is worldwide, McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken, wherever you travel over the world, Taco
yeah,
Bell is all over the world, so everyone has a pet. I talk about my dog. I talk about driving. So all my topics are very relatable with
yeah.
whatever, everyone's been to Walmart. We've all been to Taco Bell. Everyone has a cell phone. I do a lot of stuff about smartphones. So
Yeah,
I've never really found much of a barrier. Like I said, even in those, even in Hong Kong and Bangkok and Spain and Greece and Turkey and Israel and because when I was in Hong Kong, I met people from New York, Australia, California, as well as the beautiful Asian people that live there,
yeah.
who understand English and the American culture.
Got it. Got it. Scott, I love it. This has been a great conversation. As always, it's an honor to have you in my presence and certainly on my show. I appreciate it. This has been awesome. And before we get out of here, Scott, how can fans follow you on social media or contact you for booking?
Very simple. There's if you do the Facebook thing, you can go to Facebook, Mr. Punchline. That's Mr. Punchline on Facebook. You can find me at Twitter. If you do the Twitter thing, it's at Clean Comic. I'm clean. I'm a comic. So here is at Clean Comic. You can also see all on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you just simply type in comedian Scott Wood, and you can find me there. So there's 3 platforms. Let's see. Also, if you want to just call the office for bookings for next year or have me on your social platform, the office number is 951 642 4165. Again, that's 951 642 4165. You can call the office here and book me to do an event or check me out online. And then next year, we're really it looks good that we're going to have my new cooking show featuring stand-up comedians called Something Smells Funny. So it's going to be a great, hilarious cooking show. It's a talk show basically in a kitchen where I invite all the great comics on. We talk comedy, cooking. We're cooking up some delicious dishes. We filmed 4 episodes already with a live audience, and we're really excited about that. So, and of course, if it hits, I'm sure you'd love to have me back on, and we can talk about that and show some of the episodes. And I was recently on
Absolutely.
Huckabee too. So on TBN on the Mike Huckabee show, and I know he has his own Facebook, Mike Huckabee, and you
Yeah.
can go there and just type in Scott Wood, and you can see some of my the stuff I did there. You know, my voice impressions from Donald Trump to I did
Yeah.
Dr. Fauci, I did Nicholson, I did you know, my wife with all the voices in my head. My wife says she never knows who she's going to be with, so you just never know.
I love it. I
So there
love
you
it.
have it.
Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it. And by the way, everybody, check me out on the Darren Streblo comedy show. I had a chance to be on there last week. There's Scott Wood, who's been, you can see Scott has been on Darren's show as well, a very funny comedian who just dropped a dry bar comedy special recently. So check that
Yes.
out. And also, I'm in the film Love Different on pureflix.com, which came out in 2016. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been a joy and an honor having on our show the very funny and the very talented Mr. Scott Wood. Thank you, Scott, for being on the Maurice Brown
Thanks.
Show. And and don't forget, this show will air on the Roku channel on the Creative Motion Network. Kristen Collier and her husband Kevin Collier run that network, and they chimed in earlier during the show. So check that out.
Yeah.
That's going to be on Roku TV on the Creative Motion Network. Once again, everybody, the very funny and talented Scott Wood. Thank you, Scott, for being on the show.
Hey, thanks, Maurice. God bless you. Love to you and the family, man. And looking forward to talking to you again real soon, my friend.
Amen. God bless. Appreciate it, Scott.
Thanks. Thanks.